know our class will not. Here are the things I found in your textbook that are lies. Well, this we can. We can. Open the area in which we should be learning that day. The door was closed, and then when the principal went by, if he looked in, he'd see we were on the right page. Then I'd teach whatever I could. The kids would like to be taught things. So now you might not work very long in that system, and you might not get hired at any place else. So open your own school. A lot of people are doing it. However, you're going to have to get textbooks someplace. So I would advise you all to become writers of textbooks. Go get the textbooks and write a textbook that tells the truth, and take it to the school and say, get it published. You can do this. Amazon will publish the damn textbook. They published my book. They'll publish anything. Take that. Really will. Take that textbook and send it to Amazon and get it published. And then take it to school and say, look at this beautiful textbook. This is what I want my child to learn out of. And all you have to do is tell the truth in that textbook. Now it's going to take you a while to write it, because you're going to have to do a whole bunch of research. Because we do not tell the truth unless we absolutely have to. And if you don't believe that, go to Wikipedia. People, do not go to Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia, I was born on May 16th, 30 years ago. Be careful what you call reference work. All right, did I answer your question?
Yes.
Well, it isn't going to make your life pleasant, but if you want pleasant, you have to move someplace else.
I'm ready.
I know it. Good for you. Good for you. Yes, sir.
Well, to me, one of the greatest inventions that in recent times I've come to know is the internet.
Is what?
The internet. Internet.
Oh, bullshit. I'm sorry. No. If the internet were put in the hands of people who have been educated, that would be one of the most wonderful things of all time. Unfortunately, it came after television. How many of you have ever read any of Marshall McLuhan's works? That's what I thought. People, get a book by Marshall McLuhan, and in that book he said in the 70s, stay away from television, it will ruin your mind. And you watch television, it's better now than it was 20 years ago. But when I first started teaching, I didn't have television, so I couldn't depend on television. After my kids got television, all of a sudden their attention span dropped to about this long. I had to teach in 3.5-minute segments, because they were used to getting up, because that's how long the program is before the commercial. They were used to paying attention for maybe 7 minutes, and then I'd have to change what I was teaching because they were ready to go to the bathroom or they were ready to do something else, because their bodies, it changes your body chemistry. You begin to think in 3.5 or 4-minute cycles. And if you think I'm lying, try it. Work with a bunch of kids who haven't had television, and they can listen, like you people have been able to listen for a whole long time because you're interested in what I'm saying. But kids will listen only as long as they've been accustomed to listening, and that's about 3.5 to 4 minutes. That's how long the program is before you get to the commercial. We have changed the way children's work. We have changed children's abilities to listen, because they listen according to how long they've been exposed to television. Now, what's your question?
Okay. So I want to go back to say that the internet is the greatest. The reason is, I understand what you're saying from a negative perspective, that the television has done some damage. The internet has doing some damage too. But as a person who has become conscious of myself and my people, I've learned the best way to teach my people about themselves is through the internet. And I'd like to say to people right now that the internet was invented, as you have shown about the shoes and the stoplight, it was invented by a black man. Most people don't know this. It was invented by a guy, his name is Amagwali. If there's a Nigerian here that can correct me in this. about it. It was a Nigerian guy who invented it. Now,
What's your question?
I'm coming to you.
Well, we got sooner.
All right, so my question is, I noticed during the time of Barack Obama, when he was coming, one of the first breakthroughs he got was through Iowa. And I'm saying, is this lady responsible for the way the Iowans, that's the way it's called? Are you the person who's responsible for people in Iowa to think the way they are, to become more liberal, to become more open-minded?
They haven't done any of that. Iowans haven't become more liberal. The big problem for Iowa is children graduate from high school and leave Iowa just as fast as they can. So that they can't, those children that I influenced to be different, can't spread that word in Iowa. Number one, isn't acceptable. My kids have suffered immeasurably because of that word. Teachers learn quickly. Don't talk the way Elliott does. People in town will hate you. Iowa is 98% white and about 80% ignorant. I'm sorry, but we don't want to be ignorant. We spend a lot of money on education, but we spend money on education so that our children will not learn something that we don't want them to learn. We spend a lot of money seeing to it that the people who come to teach in our schools teach the book, teach the accepted ideas and principles, which are wrong. I couldn't get a job teaching in Iowa today if my life depended on it. In fact, if my life depended on it, if they were going to kill me while I was teaching, I'd be dead now. No, what I do doesn't make Iowa any better than any other state in the United States. And every little neighborhood in the state of New York has in it the same kind of makeup, practically every one, where there are white folks, that you find in little towns all over the United States. Little towns all over the United States are composed mainly of white people. How do I explain Iowa? Iowa hasn't changed much from the time when I was born. Why do they vote the way they do? Because they haven't changed much from the time that I was born. Because they vote what their parents told them to do. They vote what their school told them to do. They vote what their husbands and wives tell them to do. And most of them, the majority of them, in the United States don't vote at all. In the last election, what percentage of the voting population, the population of people who were old enough to vote, what percentage voted? Something like 44% of all the people who were eligible to vote, only less than 44% voted. So that means that 35% of 40% voted to put this fool in office. Now, do you understand why it's important that you vote? We cannot allow this to happen again. No, Iowa's a perfectly lovely place, and they think it's much lovelier when I'm in California for the winter. What's your question?
I'm a high school guidance counselor, and in my school I started a mindfulness program, and although it was optional, there were just a few students from each class that participated. The suspension rate dropped in my school from 38 and 35 over the previous 10 years to 3 and 2 for the 2 years that I started the program. So I was just wondering, thank you. So I was just wondering, although it was just your class that you did the experiment, if there was an impact anywhere else among the other students in the school.
Yes, when my sister substituted at the junior high level several years after I'd done the exercise, and the English teacher at the junior high level came down for lunch and said, the worst thing just happened in my classroom. And my sister said, well, what happened? One, I used the N-word, and one of my students said, we don't use that word in this school. If you're going to use it, I'm going to go out in the hall until you stop using it. She said, what would you have done? And my sister said, well, I think I'd stop using the word A kid, a junior high kid, had to tell his English teacher, that's inappropriate behavior. It changed the way the kids behaved, the other kids in the school behaved. They did a study. You and I sent up an associate professor, University of Northern Iowa, sent an associate professor to my school to do survey to find out what the level of racism was in the kids from the third grade to the 6th grade in my school. He did the same study in a comparable classroom in St. Ansgar, which is about 25 miles away, and the people are the same as they are in Iowa. When they compiled the results, he called me and said, "Miss Elliott, I got the results for the survey." And I said, "Oh, okay, what'd you find out?" He said, "The kids who were in your classroom in 3rd grade were much less racist in their remarks than were the rest of the kids in the Riceville school." I said, "Well, that's good." He said, "It's better than that." He said, "There's more. The kids in the Riceville school were much less racist in their behaviors than they were the kids in the nearby comparable community was." He said, "What is happening here is what your children are learning in your classroom is rubbing off on their peers." He said, "You aren't just changing the kids in your classroom, they are changing the kids, the rest of the building." Now, people, don't you tell me that schools don't make a difference. Don't you tell me that we can't change this. Don't you tell me that what we're doing makes any sense at all, because it doesn't. Teachers can make a difference. You've proven that you can make a difference. However, did you invite the teachers to be in that group? Oh, there it is. Say it louder.
They opted out.
She invited the teachers and they opted out. Because as one of the teachers in the school that I taught in, when I said, "I'm going to bring a person in to talk about racism," she said, "I don't need to know that. I already know enough. I have my BA." Only she had a BS, and BS stands for BS, and MS in many cases stands for more of the same, and PhD in many cases stands for piled higher and deeper. Now, I believe in education. I don't believe in teaching. I believe in leading people out of ignorance. And the teachers in your school who opted out ought to lose their jobs, because you were offering them something that wasn't going to cost them anything but a few minutes of their time every day, and was going to say to those students, "This teacher believes in this idea." How many of you think that would have had a positive effect on every kid in that building? Well, of course it would. They need to know that teachers care enough to spend some time learning something that they are learning. The kids that left out of that group went on and knew more than their future teachers did. Now think about that. Think about the implications of that. And make no mistake about this. Every black kid in schools in the United States of America knows more than his or her white teachers do. Now that's a fact. And I would love to give a real test to white teachers and have a test composed by black citizens. I would love to have such a test. There is a test called the Dove Counterbalance Intelligence Test. If you haven't seen it, get a copy of the Dove Counterbalance Intelligence Test and give it to the person nearest to you who has an MS, a BS, or a PhD, and see if they can pass it. They can't, because it's the world according to what happens with blacks. I want somebody to come up with a test for teachers that tests their knowledge about all the children they're teaching. Yes, what's your next question? Are you trying to tell me to stop, sir? Good luck. Yes.
When we send our kids to school, we expect them to feel safe, not be traumatized, not to experience racism.
Then you're going to the wrong school.
Well, that's the issue, is a lot of our teachers are white, and some of them are doing that to our kids. They're traumatizing to them. They're giving them racist lessons and things that are stemmed in fear. Some school of thought is that they need to be educated.
All right, you're going to ask me, what can we do about this? Here's what you can do about it. You know how you have a pencil and a piece of paper. You go to school. Listen to me. You go to school, you talk to a teacher. And every time that teacher makes a racist statement, every time she talks about biracial or multiracial, or how she knows that she didn't recognize you were black because you don't look black to her, every time she says one of those, you write it down. And you date it. And you say, "Will you sign this, please?" Because she said it. And if she says 5 of them, take it to the principal and say, "This is what just happened in one of your classrooms And it happened at the hands of one of your hired employees whose wages are being paid by my taxes. I want something done about this. And then you say, I'm going to go to every teacher that has anything to do with my children, and I'm going to ask them what they feel about things, and then I'm going to write down their answers. Because as long as you allow it to happen, it will continue to happen. As long as there is no reason to stop, they won't stop, because they are being reinforced by the rest of the teachers in continuing to act in racist ways. If you want this to stop, you have to stop them.
Some people feel like they should be educated, while others feel like they should be fired. What are your thoughts?
Well, educate them. If that doesn't work, then fire them. But, you know, give them a chance. And here, I took courses in, unfortunately. For a while, I thought I wanted to be a principal. So I took courses in administration for 3 summers. Oh my God. You want to know what's wrong with schools? Take courses in administration. It is a real thrill, I tell you. The first course I took, there were 3 women in the group, and all the rest of the people there were males. So all the males sat on this side of the room, and the women sat over here alone. Because, you know, if you're too close to a woman, it'll catch you. It's catching. You'll become one if you're too close to them. You know that, of course. I tell you, it was a riot. One day, a person, one of the others, said, I've got a teacher. What should I do about a teacher who got on? And the principal, the instructor said, let's find out what the rest of them think. What do you think they should do? And one of them said, well, I think you ought to take him or her down to the teacher's lounge or down to the office and you know, tell them a couple stories and joke them out of it. And another one said, well, I'd meet with them and ask them whether they really thought that was true and if they could possibly not say that particular thing again. He said, Miss Elliott, what would you do? I said, I would take that teacher into my office. I would say, now, I've had these complaints about you. This one area you're going to have to show improvement in the next month. I'm going to give you 30 days, 20 days, because teachers only teach 20 days a month. I'm going to give you 3 months to change your behaviors. If I don't see behavioral change in you in the next 3 months, you are going to be asked to go elsewhere to find a job. And these guys who said, listen to that bitch, who did she think? Oh, all kinds of nasty words were thrown around. The professor said, Mrs. Elliott, that is exactly the way to handle that problem. Give them a chance to change, and if they don't change, move them out. You have a right to say to the principal, this is what is going on. This is what happened this week and last week, and the week before that. If these behaviors continue, I'm going to go to the superintendent. If he doesn't change it, I'm going to the Board of Education. This is going to stop. If you don't stop it, you will see me here a lot. Now, I guess you know that principals and superintendents didn't want to see me in their office very often, because I would go in and say, look, it's not my job to control what's going on in the classroom next to me. But if I see one more time, I see those 2 teachers march a misbehaving child side by side down to the office, slapping him on the head as they go, I'm going to take pictures of it and I'm going to see to it that those 2 women get fired. Now, what do you want to do about that? And he said, well, you're not the principal. And I said, no, but you are. What are you going to do? So he did something about that. How many of you think that he probably knew what was going on? Of course he did. Why didn't he do something about it? Because he's afraid of the teachers. And that's the problem in schools today. The teachers are afraid of the administrators are afraid of the Board of Education, the Board of Education are afraid of the taxpayers, and the kids aren't afraid of anybody. Now people, I don't think that you should make children afraid of you, but I think you have to teach children to respect your position, to respect you as not equal, but a human being deserving equitable treatment under the law. Make no mistake about this. You, sir, come over here, please. You, right there. I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. I want you up here. Get up here. You do that so easily. Now, look at this. How many of you think that the 2 of us are equal? Have you been listening at all? Do you think I will ever be as tall as you are? Do you think I will ever be as shapely as you are?
Probably not.
Do you think I will ever know as much about being male as you do?
No.
Do you think I will ever be as young as you are?
No.
Do you think I'll ever be as strong as you are?
Maybe.
Smell isn't everything. Now, let me tell you something. I will never be any of those things, people. I will never be equal to this man, and he will never be equal to me. However, we are guaranteed equitable treatment under the law in this country. I want equity. I don't want to call it equality. You can't have it. You can't get it. It's impossible. But as long as we promise you equality, you can keep on striving for it and just keep on striving, and we can keep on reading this crap to you, and you'll keep on believing it and hoping for it. No, I deserve equitable treatment under the law, and so does he. Would you like to be treated equally?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Is that an impossible dream?
No.
No, it's not, people. And you have to stop believing that it is. If you continue to believe that these things can't change, that you continue to believe that we're all less than human. Human beings can change. And we're not stupid. You can't fix stupid. You can fix ignorance. And it's time to change the level of ignorance in this country where racism is concerned. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Would you say yes?
Yes.
Did you hear him, Mr. Vice President? This man said yes. Went right over his head. See, he was talking. Well, that's the way they are. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. People, that man just taught you something. That man just taught you something. And number one, he allowed himself to be used by an old white woman. I have other uses for you. But anyway, you need to realize that every one of us is an educator. Every one of you is an educator. Every one of you can change this situation if you decide to. You cannot allow it to remain as it is, because it won't remain as it is. It is going downhill rapidly. Well, of course, it's one good point. That now he says I made a good point. By God, I'm happy. People, society does not say the same. It either goes up or it goes down. And the direction that it takes depends on what the members of the society make it do. Black people have been instrumental. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. Think of Malcolm X, if you dare. Think of the thousands of black people who've made valuable contributions in the history of this country, and you've never even heard their names. And think of the young black boys who've been forced out of school and end up in prison and go to work, working for 20 cents an hour, and work for companies like, what? Amazon. There's a whole bunch of companies that send their raw materials into prisons to be made into products, which, if they were paying people outside the prison to do the work, would cost them $15 an hour. But it costs them 20 cents an hour if they send it into the nearest prison. Think of the number of prisons, locally owned prisons, privately owned prisons, who have sprung up in this country today, because you can make a lot of money if you own a prison, because you've got a captive workforce and you don't have to pay them. Now, people, if you put a person in a room or a building and you feed him, you clothe him, you shelter him, and you force him to work 8 hours a day, that's called slavery. That is called slavery. And that is what Bill Clinton helped to increase the rate of. 3 strikes and you're out? What color were the persons who went into prison as a result, the majority of them, as a result of 3 strikes you're out rule? Black. Young black males. Now, if you think I'm angry, you're right. If you think I'm ready to kill, you're wrong. Well, except in one case. For the most part, I'm not ready to kill. But I'm ready to kill the idea of the rightness of whiteness. I'm ready to kill the idea of several different races. There's only one race on the face of the earth, and which race is that? And how many of you are members of that race? Thank you very much, my very kind cousins. You've been a marvelous audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's right, we can stand for Jane Elliott. Yes, we can. Because she has stood for each and every one of us for over 50 years. 52 to be exact. I just on behalf of everyone want to say thank you for being with us today.